everybody. Welcome back to Facebook Live. For those of you who are new joining me, thank you. And for all of you returning, as I always say, if you're tuning into this now, you are meant to be. Something bigger than us brings us together every week or every month that we do this. So the way I like to do this, when you guys have a question, just write in, and the more universal, generalized, the better, so that we can all benefit from what we're talking about today. So we'll start with the first question.
Yeah. So the first question comes from Trisha, and she's asking what you mean when you say that spirit speaks through the back of the neck.
Yeah, I oftentimes will say in my groups, spirits communicate with us in the back of the neck, and what that means is we have chakras, and our chakras, we have a throat chakra, and the front is where we send out energy, and the back is where we receive. And so the throat chakra is all about communication, and so the back is where we receive communication, whether it be our own intuitive hits that we're picking up, telepathically from the world around us, or from spirit energy. And so a lot of times when people are sitting in my groups, they start messing with their neck, and I can see it. And it happens to me all the time. The minute I start to get blocked and I can't read, it's because this is all jammed up. And so if you notice your neck is kind of achy or tight, it's probably needing to release and open up so that you can be in touch with your own inner guidance, inner voice, right? So it's just really good. There's a lot of different ways that you can work on opening the throat chakra. You can do chanting like Om. You can just imagine what I do in my groups. I imagine a big ball of white light melting away all blocks, and then I imagine a doorway opening up to the other side. So play around with that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Bridget asks our next question, and she asks, what's the difference between having psychic abilities and having a strong intuition?
So, well, we're all born with the gift of intuition, right? It's an innate ability. It's what I call our internal GPS system. So we all have intuition. Psychic abilities, it's just really taking the intuition and dialing in. We all have these clair senses, and that's how we pick up, psychic information. So it's kind of, they're the same thing, more or less, Your psychic abilities are, again, we all have them, and they come in different forms, whether you're feeling things, things, you're seeing things, or you're hearing things. And I will be putting out a vlog in the near future on going into what those clairs mean and how you can strengthen them, if that's helpful.
Great.
So the next question comes from Heather and Valerie. They both had questions about animals or pets, and they're wondering if we can still communicate, or if the animals can still communicate or send messages to us from the other side, and then if we'll see our departed animals on the other side.
Yes. So for you animal lovers out there, you hear me say this all the time. I think animals a lot of times are angels in a pet body because they're unconditional love. And they're sent to us in our journey mostly to help us versus us helping them. But they give us opportunities to learn different lessons and to receive unconditional love. And so, yes, every single day that I do readings, I always hear from animal souls just as much as I hear from human souls. And so today I just had a group, and I kept asking, who is Rocky? Who's Rocky? And this woman said, well, that was my childhood dog, but that was like 50 years ago. Well, the soul of Rocky was her favorite special childhood dog that showed up because at one point it was a very significant part of her life. It was a spirit guide. And time doesn't matter to the spirit world, so it's still with her. So spirit animals come through all the time, and you will definitely meet up with them when you cross over. I like to call, there's a realm up there called Animal Heaven. And so you are able to visit that realm whenever you choose to.
So Candace asks next, what's the best way to engage guides, and how do you know if you're doing it quote unquote right?
Yeah, so spirit guides are always available to you, and a lot of times they're there, but we just don't know that they're there. And so the best way is to meet them halfway. And so it really comes down to your curiosity and your intention, wanting to. And so all you really have to do is put out the call. And I think the best way is in your dreams. So that's what I do, because I know for me, I do it also in my meditation. So meditation and dreams are the best way. Either way, but for me, the dream state is much more objective because my mind is out of the way. And I also had an experience a few months ago where I worked with a shaman, and she took me on a journey to meet my new guides. Supposedly all my guides had left, and I felt I was in a void. And sure enough, they had, because I was shifting to a new level of doing my work, and I got new guides. She took me on a journey drumming, and I met my guides. And the minute one of them came through, and she said in the meditation, she said, my name is Queen. Call me Queen. Okay. So I left this woman's office, and a license plate like an hour later parked right in front of me was Queen. Right? That was my validation. Like, I knew it was real, but it was like just in case I started to slip into second guessing. Mm-hmm. And so if you go to bed at night and invite them in, or sit in your meditation and invite your guides in, they will come to you, and they will either, you will see them, you will feel them, maybe you see colors, symbols that represent them, and then they, I promise you, will follow up with validations over the course of the next few days or weeks to confirm that you did make contact. Because a lot of times we, again, slip into doubt or wondering if it's wishful thinking. So I would just tell you, set the intention, ask them to validate, and then make it a point to meet them halfway every day, whether it's, again, in meditation or dream state.
So Bridget is asking, I know you talked a little bit about chakras earlier, but she's asking if physical ailments are a sign of blocked chakras.
Yes, that's a great question. So physical ailments definitely represent, so everything starts energetically, okay? And then over time it evolves physically. And so the chakras are the energy centers. They're energetic. So I know for me, I've always had throat chakra stuff from the day I came into this world. And it can go deep into past lives. So I know I was beheaded for speaking my truth and maybe even having this gift back in Salem, back in the witch days. And so I've always had throat chakra issues, and the minute I get sick, this is my weak spot. It activates losing my voice. And I have thyroid issues. And so I actively work on healing my throat chakra to get ahead of it, so I can minimize, if not, remove all physical issues. And so the minute you notice, especially a lot of people's sinus issues, this is usually blocked third eye. Mm-hmm. And so if your third eye is blocked, it's usually because of fear. You're afraid of seeing how powerful you are and seeing past, present, or future psychic guidance. That's the center of clairvoyance. And so especially if you're having that, those issues, you want to work on clearing up the energetic first, and then the physical should improve.
Thank you. So Tracy is asking a follow-up question on something we just talked about. So she wants to know, how is a shaman different from a medium?
Oh, I love that. I love that I mentioned the shaman.
Yeah.
So how is a shaman different from a medium? A shaman, we're all seers. Like we are all here to basically tap into this non-physical realm and connect into higher spiritual guidance, okay? A shaman has been a lot of times trained, and it's based in Native American culture, and there's just different ways of executing your healing abilities and gifts. And I'm not a shaman. So a medium, that is very clear. It has become very clear for me that is my specialty. I'm not drawn necessarily to shamanism, although when I've worked with them, I love the experience. But that to me is my guidance. I'm not supposed to actually be trained to be a shaman. And so a medium is somebody, bottom line, who is a bridge between the earth world and the spirit world. And we carry forward messages. Shamans do the same thing, but there's a lot of different healing modalities that go into that, traditions, rituals that shamans do. They work with herbs and totem animals and drumming. So it's a really amazing experience when you can work with a really powerful, gifted shaman. But mediumship is just a little bit more straightforward. That's my experience.
So Wendy asked a question about like Alzheimer's or amnesia, and if you lose someone that had that when they passed, if they regain their memories in the afterlife, or if they are not able to remember in the afterlife.
So when you die, you obviously lose your body, and so all the disease is connected to the physical body and the mind, right? The only thing that we take with us is our soul consciousness, which is energy. So all the physical ailments and diseases are gone. So I hear it time and again, all the Alzheimer's, dementia, cancer, diabetes, whatever it is, gone. And that's the gift of death. If there is a gift, I know it's hard sometimes to fathom that we would be happy to die, but when you get to leave behind the physical, like heavy, dense ailments, that's a gift.
Thank you. So, our next question is from Ashley, and she is wondering if we are still able to communicate as effectively with a loved one if they did not believe in religion.
So that's a great question because I have all the time spirits coming through showing me they didn't believe in religion or God, they were atheists. But if they're coming through, they've shifted to an openness and awareness that there is a divine supreme being, whatever you want to call it, something bigger. If they don't come through, maybe they haven't opened up to that. And so therefore they're unable to get through until they're available to that knowing. Because the work I do is based in spirit source, God, right? It's not tied to religion though. So religion is one way to find your way to God. And that's great. It works for a lot of people. But there's a lot of ways. So there's a quote, many paths, one truth. It doesn't matter what path you take as long as you eventually get to that one truth, that knowing of the oneness, which we call God. So if a spirit does not believe, it's unlikely we will be able to make a connection.
Pam asked the next question, and it's she said that she has a loved one that's terminal and will be passing soon, but they've never discussed like subjects like the other side other than just the existence of heaven. So she's wondering if you have any advice on approaching the topic about wanting to keep in touch after they cross over.
Yeah, I think that's a really great opportunity before your loved one dies to have the conversations. I all the time bring through messages from spirit telling the living to have that conversation with other living family members who are about to cross over. It's to demystify it and bring comfort and excitement that it's going to be a homecoming. And it's not a black hole. It's a beautiful existence. And as long as, they're a good person and they're good with themselves, they're going to find a beautiful, good place when they cross over. And so how do you do that? It depends on the person. There's not like a one-size-fits-all. For some people, it's going to be really direct. Let's have this conversation. And you can broach it like we're in school. We're in Earth school here. And when we pass away, it's like summer vacation. Okay? Because in this world, we have a lot of contrast. We have challenges. We have to grow through adversity at times, painful lessons. And you can grow through joy, obviously, as well. But in the spirit world, there is no duality. It's that higher, easier, lighter vibration of joy, peace, love, truth, okay? And so it's summer vacation. And so maybe that will paint a nice picture in their mind that if they've paid their dues, meaning they've done the work and they've lived a full life, or it doesn't matter how many years, it just means their soul fulfilled what they came to do, however long, then they have everything to look forward to. They get to then rest and relax and hopefully not be afraid to cross over.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So Berta would like to know, can we still connect with our departed loved ones if they've reincarnated, or is it only before they reincarnate?
Yeah, so in my experience, I do not channel souls that have reincarnated because they're in a body somewhere. And I don't channel living people. That should make you happy. So it makes me happy. It would be a little weird. But So if they've reincarnated, usually what happens if we go and ask if a certain spirit is there and they're not, either some spirit up there will tell me that soul has reincarnated, or that person I'm working with will have that sense that their great-grandchild is the reincarnation of what was once their mother. And they've, demonstrated similar characteristics of that once mother. And so you can validate it a lot of times, but again, if they've reincarnated, I can't channel them.
So Kathy is asking about like special numbers or angel numbers, but in the sense of their son died one day, but he was found 2 days later, and so his death date is actually that date. So she's wondering, I think, how to identify like numbers that would be from her son,
Right.
what date to use to maybe identify that.
Well, my psychic hit, because I just got out of a group reading, so I'm going to offer this to you. What I just got is it's the date he actually died, not the date he was found. Right? His soul left 2 days before. So you go with that number, not the date he was found. And so what I would also say is use your feelings as your guidance. One feels right, the numbers that feel right, and the ones that don't. So a lot of times they will use those numbers to say hello. Like if you see their death date on the clock or on a grocery receipt or a license plate, or it's a birth date. It's two sides of the same coin. Okay? So if you're seeing the death date, what they've told me is that's to celebrate the memory of their life. Don't be sad. They're not dead. Celebrate their energy still with you.
Thank you.
Thanks. So, Sarah, she says she's really appreciated reading your books and learning where religion and other things fit in with the overall universe. And now she's wondering about the Zodiac. She runs into people that say, well, I'm an Aries, so blah, blah, blah. So she just wants kind of your take. Is that real? Zodiac signs, do they really mean anything?
I believe they're real. I'm not very skilled in astrology, but I follow it as best I can. Susan Miller, astrologyzone.com is what I follow, and I think she's amazing. She's a great teacher, and she has awesome monthly forecasts that are so intuitively lined up with what I get. I just think she's a great one if you're curious to know more about astrology. That would be my suggestion. But yeah, absolutely. There's all different ways. There's numerology. There's all different ways to interpret our life existence on this planet and to make sense of it. There's religion. It's what I said, many paths, one truth. For a lot of people, astrology is the way. So check it out.
Trisha is asking, can spirit be in more than one place at a time?
Yes, and spirits aren't limited to the linear time-space limitations that we humans have. So that's why people ask, how do phone readings work, or readings over Skype or text? Because the spirit or spirits I'm working with are with both of us at the same time. So a lot of times I'll be on the phone with someone and I'll say, this happened a couple weeks ago, and I said, your mother's talking about a Christmas ornament. It's like a crystal dove or something. Do you know what I'm talking about? And the woman freaked out she was in New York or something. She said, oh my God, Rebecca, I'm sitting here holding a crystal dove. That's a Christmas ornament that my mom gave me. And I'm like, well, do you see now? She sees you. She's with you, but she's telling me. So it does work.
Thank you.
Claudia is wondering, she's reading a book right now, and the man in the book has been told by several mediums that his parents come together on special occasions. They're both passed over, but they're not always together on the other side. And so she's wondering about that and why that might happen. And to her, it's a little worrisome because she kind of likes that idea that when we cross over, we'll be with our other people. So she's just wondering about that.
Yeah. So you will be with the people that you interacted with in this world, and for some you'll be with often and others not so often. It's like, don't be worried about it. It's like some of my best friends, I go for weeks if not months without physically being with them. And it's not necessarily ideal what I want, but either they live out of town or we just have busy lives. Some of my closest friends in Denver I get to see once or maybe twice a month. So it's the same in the spirit world. We have different things that we need to do over there. So we can't just constantly be together, meaning your parents might be in different classrooms. So they're learning different lessons. But then for recess, when they have free time, they come together. Okay? And they spend time together.
I love that.
It's the best way I can describe it. So it's very common for them to go off, do their own thing, come back together. And there's no good or bad to that. It just is.
So our next question comes from Wendy, and she's asking if you specifically, when you meet people, do you automatically recognize them as being in your soul group? And maybe if we all have that ability to kind of recognize people that are with us. I don't know.
Yes. So, well, we all do. It's not just me. So when you meet someone for the first time and you have like a visceral response, like strong, like, I swear I know you. How do I know you? That's your soul recognition. That's you remembering on a soul level, I was destined to meet up with this person at this point along my journey. Okay? You can't always place it because your mind forgets, but your soul knows. So you feel it. That's exactly what happens. Some of your soul group members have been with you from the minute you were born. They're in your immediate family, immediate friend circles. Some of them you're not going to meet up with until later points along your path. And you're much older and you're meant to intersect at that point. So I would just say you will feel it. It's very, very different than just meeting someone and they're pleasant and you like them. But it feels familiar, but you can't place it. And sometimes it's deja vu. That's another way to know.
Thank you.
Shasta is asking, in what ways can the non-physical dimension help us on the physical plane? And conversely, what help is the non-physical dimension looking for from the physical?
Well, it works both ways. So the spirits want to help us. A lot of times they want to be our silent partners. And the way we can help them is by letting them. So the law of free will says spirits can't intervene unless we give them permission. I had a reading today where this older man, it came up that his father passed away and he started this big family business, and now this man, who seemed to be retired, probably in his 70s, is still managing it, but then his sons and maybe even grandson are running it. And the dad said, I'm still behind the scenes as a silent partner, and I need you to let me help you. So every day, pray and say, use me. Okay? And so the man here is the physical vessel through which spirit can finish out his unfinished business, his father who passed on. And so that's a win-win, right? And so a lot of times we are showing up to help the spirit. Sometimes it's simply they need us to be messengers and pass on messages to other people. Mm-hmm. So they're helping us and we are helping them. I hope that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So Tamra and Mona Lisa had questions about reincarnation, and just if you can explain a little bit about how it works and if our loved ones will not reincarnate until we reach the other side.
So it's case by case. There's no set rules. But what I've come to understand is that when we pass away, we're not in a big hurry to get back into a body unless our life was taken without our own consent, like in, horrific acts where we were murdered or tragic, accidents, and we weren't complete. And so we really feel a strong need to jump back in. So what happens is we pass away. We cross over, we connect with our soul group and our spirit guides, and then we meet with our council. And our council is a board, more or less, of very advanced spirit beings who help us do a life review, figure out the lessons we fulfilled, like what we learned, where we could have done better, maybe where we screwed up completely. No one's judging us. They're just helping us be accountable and work through it with compassion. And then we script a next potential incarnation if we choose to do that. Some souls say, I need a break. That was enough, and I'm going to take a breather and just hang out on the other side for a while and then reconsider. So we have free will. You don't have to reincarnate. Most souls choose to because they realize it's kind of like when you go through school, K through 12, and then you graduate and you're like, God, during it felt like forever. And then when at the end through graduation, you're like, God, that went by so fast. Mm-hmm. And like it's kind of like nostalgic, like you miss it. So that's what happens when we pass away. And so time is an illusion, and you realize you could easily reincarnate. So a lot of souls want to not reincarnate, meaning they want to wait till you finish out your life, which could be another 70 years. It could be 7 years, who knows? And be with you and compare notes and talk about the lessons and the roles you played for each other in that last life before you set up a next life to reincarnate and do it all over again.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So Terry is asking, how much of our soul is residing in our body?
That's a good question. So we don't take all of our soul energy in. It's too powerful and we would implode. But we take a percentage, and it's usually what I've heard between 40 and about 75%. And then the other percent remains in non-physical, which is our higher self connection. And so for more advanced, so it just depends what you're here to do. Sometimes you need more soul energy to accomplish what you set out to do. What I have heard is more advanced souls take less in because a lot of their energy is still in non-physical, and so it's easy for them to meditate, and it's easy for them to have these profound, like, divine connections and strong intuition because so much of their soul energy is still in the non-physical, right? Whereas some of us are so in this three-dimensional earth world, it's very challenging. And so that's why when you meditate, you match up with your higher self, which is in non-physical, and so it's easier to then make connections with the spirit world. Okay, so I know it's a lot. So the best books I could suggest would be what I've said in the past, Journey of Souls, Destiny of Souls. I think they talk about it in there. But I think it's Destiny of Souls. So it's Dr. Michael Newton. I just remember I read it like 20 years ago, and it's exactly, I remember reading it, and I'm like, that's exactly what I got from my own guides, what they shared with me. So I'm just saying I think that is truth. Check it out.
Great.
Michelle is asking about an experience that she's had. She's recently seen like sparks of light in the air when she's sitting outside. So can you tell us what that may be, what she's seeing?
So a lot of times when we see sparks of light inside or outside, it is spirits, it's angels. They're moving by us and you see a spark. I see it all the time. When I'm doing readings, if the spirit's really strong, they spark up. And they especially do it when I just said something that's really strong, important, and truth. But sometimes they're floaters. Okay, so it just depends. Sometimes these floaters are doubt energy or negative energies, like entities, like not necessarily loved ones who want the best for you. And especially if you keep getting like a twitch or a floaters, what you want to do is like figure out a way to send light to it. I was taught to put a white rose on it and then dissolve it. Okay, go away. And it really does work. The minute you see it, you're like, cancel that. I'm not in agreement with that energy. Okay, only with source. So you kind of have to gut check and just ask yourself, is this positive, negative? Is this my guides, angels, loved ones? Or is this something trying to sabotage, block me from seeing the truth? Okay? And then the last thing, sometimes when you stare at the sun or a light bulb, you're going to start seeing floaters or whatever. So it's not supernatural at all. It's just messing with your eyes. So I would just encourage you, as long as you're ruling out, you're not staring into the sun or a bright light, then you know it's probably a spirit energy.
That's great. Sonia, she asks, how would spirit want us to handle feelings of loneliness or abandonment from living family? For example, if people in our family aren't there for us as much as we think we're there for them.
Spirit wants us to look for our sense of fulfillment from source, God, which is love. Not to a person, whether it's a family member or a boyfriend, girlfriend, nothing external to fill the void. So the wisdom comes knowing that we can be filled up with joy and love and connection by going within and tapping into that God spark, which I just said was source, which is love, okay? And then we're not needy or dependent on any external circumstances, right? Which is out of our control always. And so that's what Spirit wants for us to understand. And we forget that when we're here. We think it's our kids who fill us up, or our spouse or partners. And while they do add to our joy and amplify it, and vice versa, they're not our source, okay? So that's what they want you to know. The other thing is to pray for your loved ones who are hurting you, to be the bigger person and pray for their highest truth, highest healing. Connect with them energetically, but not physically, because then you make yourself vulnerable to being hurt by them. So if you just energetically forgive them, send them love, it does tend to heal them, and then you'll see them reach out to you in a way that feels good. And then you're able to hopefully reconnect, and then hopefully that makes sense.
So this will be our last question, and it comes from Melissa, and she's asking if mediums can see what people look like in life.
It depends. I sometimes do and sometimes don't. I usually don't. All mediums have different strengths and different ways of receiving messages. So for me, I don't actually see the spirits in my mind's eye. They show me a look-alike. So I'll see Dolly Parton if, somebody looked like Dolly Parton. Or I saw a few weeks ago, I saw KFC, the Colonel, and the woman's like, it was her husband, she said, everyone said he looked like the Colonel. That was their inside joke. And so I'm like, thank you. So that's what he looked like, but I didn't see him. So it just depends. So I would say if you're playing around with your abilities, don't feel like you're not doing it if you're not seeing the spirits. Here's why. When we die, we don't have the same body. Think about it. You've had hundreds, if not thousands, of lifetimes. So the last body you used, they may or may not come forward to show, to present. I've had people who have had visitations where they wake up in the middle of the night and they see their loved one in that same, maybe at a different age in their life. They died at 75, but they come forward at the age 45, right? And so the Spirit's saying, I'm going to take on what is the most accurate reflection of my energy and my state of being now, okay? And sometimes, if you've seen the movie What Dreams May Come, they take on an apparition of something they always wanted to be. Let's say they wanted to be Asian, but they were Caucasian, right? You can pick and choose once you pass away. Okay, so this has been fun. Thank you for joining me. As always, please write in. I love your questions. They're great questions. It feels like we get these themes where, every month people are kind of like asking similar questions, which tells me stuff's surfacing that needs to be addressed. And so that's why I hold this gathering. It's kind of a safe place for us to have a conversation, to talk about it, demystify it, and hopefully inspire and encourage you to continue your own spiritual work and growth along your path. As always, wishing you all brightest blessings and all love until we speak next month.